to demonstrations.
I haven't heard it. I hope that you're right. That's the right.
Yeah, I read it. You know, I get the Jerusalem Post. I read every morning. I
Mm.
read it in there
Mm.
that they, from their own side, they had decided because of the coronavirus not to go protest until. But only, I think there's few movements there. There's crime minister, and then there's black flags, and then there's more kind of others. And so I think the black flags had kind of said, yeah. We had a very interesting situation also here in Switzerland. You know, Switzerland, in front of the government, usually there's a market. There is no barbed wire, there is no tanks, there is nothing. And so the climate use, as we call them in German, they decided to occupy the space in front of it. So they went with like big tents and the kitchen and like, like, I don't know, 50, 100 young people, they slept there. And it is not allowed to hold protests while the government is in session because they're not in session all the time. And so, but they didn't move. So then it's like, so some people complained that this is not right. Then, of course, the climate use, they're more left wing, and the government also here in Bern, the city is also more left wing. So they said, why don't they call the police and chase them away and this and that. So, but they left them there. Like they made space for the market, for the vegetable market to be there, but of course not enough. So then the people with the vegetables, they got angry. And, but then they came back. And so last night, like they had about 3 ultimatums. And the last one was last night, 8 o'clock. So this morning, 3 o'clock, the police came and kind of, carried them away because some had chained themselves on with chains and, locked. They have a tube, and then 2 people put their arm like inside the tube, and then they lock it. So they have to cut the tube in order to separate them. But everything went very peacefully. So I haven't heard any comments yet. Like the climate use, they were able to make their statement and see that they, so we saw that they're really determined, even to bear rain and sleep there, on very hard asphalt. And the police also was very cooperative and very peaceful also, so that nobody got hurt. So that's what happened here the last 2-3 days. So we also had kind of, the buses didn't go anymore, and because they didn't know whether it was going to escalate or not. So it was interesting to see. And what I see is like it's this high emotions and this clashing of opinions and people not really listening to each other. So this is what is, I think, happening right now, and it's not very helpful.
How is the corona in Switzerland?
Well, we also have, we have those people who go in the streets and they say, well, the measures that they're taking is far too strict and is totally not appropriate and this and that. There was a discussion on TV last night. So most of the people, they keep, to wearing their masks, but only in the public transport, not in some places where it is a lot. It's like we have a little bit this red and blue and red and green and orange. It's no colors, but it's the place itself that decides whether you should wear masks in the shops or not. So some people say, well, it has nothing to do with that. It has no influence. Some other people say, yes, it has, and this and that. But we have like 400 a day, like new ones. But it will rise. I mean, this is, as long as there is no vaccine, it will rise whether we want to know. But we don't have as many as Israel. Yeah, and we have the same number of people living here.
7,000 today here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot, but then again, some don't show symptoms, but still they can pass it on to people who do show symptoms. So this is what they want to do at all costs here, and this, I think, the government is right to to at least avoid like a big peak, so that they don't have to shut down anymore, like they did in March or something like that. where, you know, for the old people, they get totally isolated in their homes, or people are handicapped and they don't understand the situation. Economically, it's really, really difficult like this. So that's what they're trying to avoid. Yeah, so like that. Tom, you can do your bit. But I think, you know, everybody who is here, they know us. So, but you can still say what you need to say. You can still do your duty and say what you need to say.
Thank you. So it will be short. שלום לכולם, ברוכים הבאים חזרה לשיעור של אנילה בנושא המדריך לחיי הבודיסטווה. כמו תמיד אני אתחיל עם כמה הערות קצרות. דבר ראשון, את כל השיעורים של אנילה וגם את השיעורים של מורים אחרים שידידי הדרמה מפרסמים, אפשר לראות בערוץ היוטיוב שלה, של ידידי הדרמה, וגם אפשר למצוא את הפרטים נוספים לכך באתר של ידידי הדרמה, ואני עוד מעט אעלה קישורים לשני המקומות האלה בצ'אט. דבר נוסף, כל הפעילות שלנו כאן נעשית בהתנדבות ומתוך נדיבות הלב, אז כל מי שמרגיש שהפעילות שלנו עושה לו טוב והיה רוצה לתרום גם מנדיבות ליבו, מוזמן לעשות בצורה של דנה או למורה או לידידי הדרמה באופן כללי, ואת הפרטים מכך אפשר למצוא גם באתר שלנו ובעמוד של השיעור הזה. יש הודעה אחת שהיא מיוחדת להיום, וזה שבעצם החל משבוע הבא כל השיעורים של ידידי הדרמה, כולל השיעור של אנילה, צריך להיכנס אליהם באמצעות סיסמה. זאת אומרת שבמקום פשוט להיכנס לקישור של הזום שנמצא באתר בעמוד של האתר, בעמוד של השיעור שלנו באתר, יהיה צורך גם להיכנס לסיסמה. הסיסמה הזאת תופיע באתר בעצם תחת הקישור לשיעור, וזה יהיה מאוד פשוט, זה בסך הכל ידרוש קצת הקלדה נוספת, אבל זה יהיה הכרחי כדי להיכנס לשיעור, כך שאם יש לכם בעיות, מוזמנים כמובן להיכנס לאתר של ידידי הדרמה, ושם יהיה מפורט החל מיום שבת בעצם, יעדכנו את כל הפרטים ותוכלו לראות איך לעשות את זה. זהו בינתיים, אז
טוב, אני לוסנג יודעת את זה, אתה אמרת לה, אתה רוצה להגיד באנגלית?
סבבה, אני אגיד את זה גם באנגלית.
Okay, I understood everything. No, I didn't.
I was just saying that starting next week, all the events and sessions of the Dharma Friends Israel will be held using a password to the Zoom event. So each Zoom event will have a password as well, and it will be specified on the page of each event on the Dharma Friends website.
Okay, so you're changing the links, the number of the link also.
Not necessarily. That would I need to see how it will work next week, but by this Saturday I'll know everything and I will tell you how it works exactly.
Yeah, because we also got this message from Zoom that starting from the 27th you need a password or a waiting room. So I just changed the links and just put a password. I'll see. I hope it still works, but so that's what I did. But today I just sent all the links to somebody who is blind from the Israeli event, so I will have to send her another email, but that's okay. So yeah, this I didn't understand about the link. Sorry.
All right, so that's it for my part.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us here.
Yeah.
Teaching us.
But it will still be the same, because usually the way I get in, I just go into the website, I click the link, and then it comes. So it will still be like this. Yeah.
Plus a password. Which the link plus the password.
Oh, you need to put the password, you think?
Yes, which will be shown just next to the link.
Okay. Okay.
I will send you an email on Saturday evening or maybe Sunday regarding at least this session, our session here for Wednesdays.
Okay.
Well, it will be only one since this Wednesday will be the last, our last session.
What,
So,
today? So we're not continuing with the Wednesdays, or?
Yes.
Yes?
I don't know.
Sorry.
From my side, it's okay, actually, if you want to continue, because, you know, there's a few weeks where I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing that much additionally, but it's up to you, really, if you want to stop the Wednesdays.
No, no, no.
No, no, no.
Something else. It means that from the next time, we need the password to go inside. So this is the last time that we don't need the password.
Oh, I see. So this is the last time with this link.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Our next meeting will be on Monday, but in this course of Thursday.
okay. Thank you, Dalit. So yeah, so everything is impermanent, things change. So maybe let's do a short reflection on this kind of shifting stuff here, as long as we are in samsara. So if you can sit with the straight back, but otherwise comfortable, this is so important that you are comfortable. Like, you know, last week, I think it was Sigal who said, well, she has a bad back, she needs to lie down. That's perfectly okay. But if you can sit with a straight back, then it helps your mind to become calm and clear and stable. And this is what we want. Because once the mind is calm, it becomes clear, it will be stable, then the whole world looks differently. We don't divide it so much into the good guys and the bad guys. We don't need to take sides so much anymore, but we can have an open heart for everybody and see that, you know, everybody just acts out of confusion. Nobody really has a good answer to samsara. Not even the Buddha had a good answer to samsara. The only answer he gave us is get out of it. Recognize what it is, recognize the causes. That's what we'll talk about today, karma and our destructive emotions, and then act on this. Try to be relaxed. Never underestimating the strength and the force of a calmness, of a calm mind. It's especially now in these times, it's so important that you do these trainings, these practices of just sitting down, connecting with your body, bringing some friendliness into the meditation also. Or maybe don't even call it meditate, just call it to be aware and to be present. And the best way we can do this when we look, what is going on in me right now? How do I feel? What is there right now? Not yesterday, not tonight, later on, but just right now, as if, you know, as if you would be looking maybe at an animal who cannot tell you what is wrong, where we don't hear words, but with just kind of attention and friendliness and kind of really wanting to be of help, really, yeah, really wanting to be there for this animal. You look inside yourself with this kind of attention, not pushing, not wanting it to be different at the beginning. First, we need to know what's going on. And then without any resistance, just noticing. This is what meditation is. This is what meditation means. To know, to be aware. And to know that you know, actually. It's also good to know. Not intellectually, but through experience. Try to feel that friendliness, that softness, that interest in your own well-being without being too self-concerned and full of self-pity. Interest, not fear, not resistance. And try to come from your head to your heart so that you can experience. In case you feel fear, I mean, it's normal because right now everything is totally upside down. So try not to push it away. But observe it, hold it. Believe it or not, fear can be, the experience of fear can be an object of meditation. You don't have to be calm in order to meditate. Also, your meditation doesn't need to be calm. What you are training is knowing, being aware. With interest and friendliness. Otherwise, if your mind is already in a neutral state, then you can choose your breath as your object of meditation. Just noticing when you're breathing in, noticing when you're breathing out, choosing not to follow the thoughts. Or if you follow the thoughts, again, to know that you are following the thoughts. Not to force anything. And just to learn, just to train, to be there in a relaxed and friendly way. Don't be afraid of your friendliness. You will not become weaker because of this. So in order to make it easier, you can just think, nothing to do, nothing to achieve. Just training. Just training to be present with whatever is, without resistance, without attachment. If the mind opens, you become spacious, very good. If it doesn't open, if it doesn't become spacious, it's okay. You see, very often these sensations or feelings of fear, insecurity, and really understanding how vulnerable we are, we don't want to live them. We think that they should not be there because I'm a tough and courageous person. But fear is an intelligent part of us. It's a natural protector. So we can just accept it by just thinking this belongs. It belongs to us because we're very vulnerable. We're very dependent on others. But we live in a fantasy of being independent. Indestructible, but we're not. But if we suppress our fear, or if we don't want to look at it, fear can hijack us, and we lose contact with the cortex, with our ability to reason, and our ability to put things into perspective. We lose contact with our compassion, humor, and so on. So this is why also having fear now is normal. But knowing that you have fear, it will not carry you away. Because when it takes over, it causes more suffering, and it is as contagious as a virus. So try to see the intelligence of the fear when you hold it with tender mindfulness. And when panic takes over, the first thing you do, you connect to the body. Be present, be with the breath, breathe naturally. And just stay there as much as possible. Then don't focus on the fear when you feel that it's taking over. Much better to go to the breath. Maybe also not your nose, because then again you're too much in the head, but your belly, or imagine that you're breathing with your whole body. And very quickly, the nervous system starts to calm down, especially when you drop the story and the scenario. And then to open up and to see, well, I'm not the only one in this situation. And we can just generate some kind feelings. May I be safe? May I be protected from physical and mental harm? It's a different mind state than the fear. When you say these words or when you have these thoughts, don't manipulate anything, just repeat them with a lot of care, with a wish for our own well-being, which that's okay, it's not selfish. It is so necessary. May I be well. May I be safe. May I be protected from physical and mental harm. And in order to make it wider, then we generate the thought also for all other beings. May everybody be protected from physical and mental harm. And again, don't expect anything drastic. Don't look for some result. The main thing is that you just do it. And so you have a very good tool when fear, panic, depression, anger, frustration, and stress takes over. Thank you. I think especially in these times, it's really good to be able to connect with ourselves, to see what's going on, to give it space also, and to hold it with kindness so that the nervous system can calm down again. But I'm sure you're all doing it, and we don't need to train this. But sometimes we forget, especially because we hear all these bad news, like with the coronavirus also again, because it's still here, and I think it will be here for quite a while. Is also, one has a tendency to always look at the negative things, how many people more, why do we need to know these numbers? Just kind of, does it give you more security when yesterday was 5,000, today 7,000? Here in Switzerland, we have 1 0 less, but still people think the same way. It's almost in an addictive way that we start to look for these numbers. Yeah, it can just create panic, and panic is really what we don't need at the moment. Okay. Okay, so those are very good tools these days. Now, the homework from last time, do you remember, for those who were present? If you are, tell me. If you don't remember, then just shake your head. Okay. Do you remember we looked at the verse? Well, we looked at a few verses, but the last one was, if I become angry with the yielder, although I'm actually harmed by the stick, then since he too is secondary being in turn incited by hatred, I should really be angry with his hatred. Like, to see when you are angry at somebody, how one has a tendency to just focus 100% just on the person, like not seeing the conditions this person is living in, not seeing in what kind of mind state I am, not seeing what is next verse then, like, that I also have a part in this with my past karma and so on. Did anybody do this? Tom is nodding. Do you like to tell us if something happened? You see, when I ask you to share, because it is so valuable also, and also maybe what it can be sometimes a little bit of a misunderstanding. When I say something, or also when I lead meditations, like last time we meditated on the motivation, and I said, how does it feel if you have a motivation like this, or if you have a motivation like this? I am not saying this is right and this is wrong, right? You have to find out for yourself. This is a very, very big part in Buddhism. is that I don't know if anybody saw His Holiness, what was it, yesterday, I think, in the morning with this Mexican guy. Did you like it? Why not? Hila, why didn't you like it?
I don't know exactly what to say, but I felt that the guy that was interviewing His Holiness, he wasn't listening, and he was like entering His Holiness words all the time.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to watch. I don't know, like he didn't have respect for His Holiness, and
right,
it was,
right.
and with his white shining teeth, like, I don't know.
It's funny that, but what you are saying this because last night we had the meditation class, and I showed them some expert. I talked about it, but nobody had seen it. So then, and the first thing that somebody said, "Oh, he's got false teeth." I said, "So what? He can be still a good person." I quite liked it because, in a way, yes, he was very disrespectful. And yes, he didn't let finish His Holiness speak. Yes, he asked him questions that are totally inappropriate to ask the monk, and especially the Dalai Lama, whether he doesn't want women, and how can you live without being in a relationship and these kind of things. I found it, yeah.
It was like a show for him, like.
Well, he is an actor.
Yeah, but it wasn't appropriate, I felt.
He's a comedian, he's an actor, he put himself on scene, he had an agenda. It was interesting for me to watch because first also I got a bit kind of, but then it was interesting to go into my feelings that I had. And I thought, he's not doing this out of spite or this and that. He doesn't know any better. You see, because I was, maybe what helped, again, we concentrate on one person. This is why I kind of took it. And then this person becomes disrespectful and all this. I was in Mexico twice giving teachings, and I really, really loved it because Mexican people are so open, and they know so much, no borders to anybody, and also amongst themselves, but they're so warm-hearted also, and they don't have this kind of reservation. He wanted to know whether he is missing, because for a South American person, can you imagine that, they can't imagine you can be happy without being in a relationship, even though their relationship life is full of drama all the time. They're very, very emotional. So the second time I was there, also the Dalai Lama came to visit. I tell you, they treated him like a superstar, like a football star or something like that. So they were all, they lined up in the streets, and they all had flowers, and they were throwing the flowers at him, and they were shouting, "Dalai Lama, we love you," and, like this. And so I think if you know the culture of Mexico, and you're not opposed to that, and because it's just their culture, then you wouldn't have gotten so upset. But I saw in the chat, in the text, that many people got really upset. Then I also saw, hey, come on, you Buddhist guys, where is your equanimity? He doesn't know any better. He was granted an interview, which is wonderful. His Holiness is, they're granting interviews to people that they don't know who they are, what they are, and what they want to do. And I don't know why he was granted an interview. And he was definitely not prepared. There was no questions and all this. So for me, it was refreshing. Mm-hmm. Something new, something a little bit different, something a little bit more free than, this kind of stiff, Your Holiness, I'm not saying you shouldn't do this. Of course not. I had even more respect for His Holiness after the talk, to see how he was totally serious, and he was honest. He said, yeah, if I see some women kind of passing by, then yeah, I see that they're beautiful, but that's about it. Like that. Yeah. Anybody else wants to say something to this Mexican talk about with His Holiness?
Yes,
I saw.
Maybe Orna first.
Yes, I saw it, and it was wonderful, I think, because it was something special, not the usual one. And I think he asks something that a lot of people want to know. And all the time, if you are speaking with the Dalai Lama, you are so respect that you are like,
Yeah.
not moving, and it was wonderful. It was live. It's very live. And also, I like the asking about laugh, because I think he is right. We are so serious all the time, and I think it's very important to laugh.
Exactly.
And he asked it very nice.
Yeah.
Also, I like the question about the woman, because he answered very nice about how we think about the boy and the children and the grandchildren.
Yes,
It was wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it doesn't mean it's, you see, like if you were disturbed also, then you were disturbed, maybe not so much against the guy, but disturbed because of, you felt for His Holiness that you're not feeling that he wasn't being respected. So it's also, it's a good disturbance. So again, you like it, it's great. You didn't like it so much, it's also okay. So I think this is what we need to learn a little bit, that there was no harm done anyway. So then why get upset? And but yeah, some people were very disturbed, which I can understand. It's a little bit like the story with the shoe and the Buddha statue. I'm pretty sure you know the story, but I'll tell you again. So there was in Tibet, like for them the statues, like if they see me, because I just cut the head of the Buddha here. I didn't even notice. Can you see the Buddha behind me? Yeah. Okay. So so they have great respect. So it was raining. So there was a small statue was standing outside, and so it was raining. And somebody thought, oh, wow, the Buddha statue being in the rain. And he took off his shoe because he didn't have anything else to cover it. And he took off the shoe and he put it over on top of the Buddha's head, which is terrible. You would never do that, but he did it because he wanted to protect the Buddha, not the statue, but actually the Buddha, that the Tibetans, they trained themselves to see the Buddha in the statue, which for you Israelis might be a little bit difficult. And then the rain stopped, and somebody came and said, oh man, this is terrible, a shoe on the Buddha's head, and he took off the shoe. So karmically, both of them created positive energy, created good karma, because they did all this with a good motivation and with a good intention. So I'm pretty sure also this actor, we don't know somebody else's motivation. But as I'm saying, the more we know, or at least the more we take into consideration, maybe I don't understand the situation perfectly, or as I was saying in my case, the more you know about the culture, for example, of Mexico now, this is then it's okay, because that's the way they are. They are like the verses before, when Shantideva says, why getting upset about something that is natural? Then it's like getting angry at the fire that it burns. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But for those people who got upset, or who got a bit, who were a bit disturbed, it just shows that you have great respect for the Dalai Lama also. Yeah. So it's both of it is okay. I don't want to say, oh, finding it really funny and great and this and that, that's the right way to listen to it, and being upset, that's not the right way. No, I don't think so. But also when we listen to these things, also to check our own state of mind, because again, when you get upset, then you don't hear the good bits anymore, in a way, when we are close, and then we concentrate on these details of false teeth. Because I was so surprised when the lady said it yesterday. Oh, he's got false teeth, and I thought, well, what's that got to do with it? Like, many of us have false teeth, especially when you get older. It's better that they're not so shiny, that when you see that they're not right, for those people who look at these things. Okay, so that was the homework, and that was last week's kind of thing that we looked at, was if we start to see a little bit wider than just like the Mexican guy with his white teeth and his big, we probably thought he's got a big ego. It's very possible. Then also, then the mind can open up again a little bit. So Tom, did you try it out? Did you want to say something?
Well, I didn't see the Mexican guy, but I saw other things that got me upset and angry. And I remember that trying to apply the homework, it was a bit weird because I would notice that I am directing my anger towards the actor, and it would seem so obvious to me, but then I would recite to myself Shantideva's saying quote, and then it became not so obvious, and then everything started to like melt. A bit like with the previous homework, when I started to look at things and trying to analyze it, then the anger would become less intensive and more diffused, and instead confusion got into the mix.
Yeah, right. So again, we're down at the same question that we had already last week. We really have to ask ourselves very honestly: do I want to live a life without anger? Because there's this fear behind it that maybe everybody will walk over us, or they will take advantage of us, or people, especially these days, I think, if you're not getting angry at certain politicians or situations or whatever groups who are doing things opposite to what your beliefs are, if you're not getting angry at them, people think you don't care. It seems that being against something these days is a really good thing, because for yourself you think, I care, I'm against this. Yeah. But being angry doesn't mean that you care. Being angry is just maybe a succession of my needs are not getting fulfilled, for example. This is a very good way also, if you want to go through life without being controlled by your anger. This is also a very, very good tool when you start getting frustrated, and the frustration goes into anger, to see, okay, and I'm not talking about the big situation, okay? I'm talking about neighbors and partners and children and dogs when they bark. Then you go one step behind and you notice the anger and you go, okay, which of my needs are not getting fulfilled here? Okay? Because then you are in a mind state of concern for yourself, and you're not stuck in the anger. And you're in a mind state of investigating. And anger does not investigate. Anger just kind of goes straight ahead. Yeah, anger wants to act. Anger wants to do something, or it freezes. It has two ways that anger expresses itself. And anger is very narrow, and it doesn't see a clear picture, This is why you cannot reason with somebody who is angry while they are angry. You're trying to explain the situation to them. Have you ever done that? Have you ever tried it? Has it ever worked? But we still continue to do it. And also then it's good to see, we still continue to try to explain to them why this is like this. And then we get angry, or we're surprised, or we're sad, or whatever, when they're not responding the way we would like them to respond, meaning letting go of their anger. To study anger is really good to look at other people when they're angry. And then to say, okay, I look like them. This is what I'm saying when I'm angry. And for that, you need a lot of self-confidence, knowing that you are not your anger, so that you don't have to suppress it. We all have anger. I mean, we all get angry. So it's part of kind of our human condition. But then not to give it so much space, or at least not to go into anger's justification, why now it's good to be angry, you know. We can look at the difficult situation with compassion instead of looking at it with anger. It's less dramatic, it's true, and maybe it has less energy, but the energy it has, one thing is like it lasts much longer, and the other thing is that it's more calm and it's more clear. So when you look and you go like, okay, my needs did not get fulfilled, and then we all of a sudden I noticed and I thought, well, I'm not really fulfilling all the needs of other people either, so why should I think that all my needs should get fulfilled? And also then starting to think, oh, maybe I could go through life and starting to, but the needs I have, which are, you know, certain level of security, but at the moment we know it cannot be fulfilled because we have no clue, you know, also here with the center, because we have to continue to pay the rent and all this. Although we're open, much less people coming, but we don't really know how to plan for next year. Should we invite people? Should we not? Should we find a cheaper place? What should we do? We don't know. We have no clue. So we just kind of go with the flow. So this need for security, nobody can give you that. And then again, you know, as Buddhist practitioners, you see, what is the Buddha saying? One of the 6 sufferings of samsara is what? One of the 6. You can give me more than one if you want, but the one that I'm kind of talking about now.
Uncertainty.
Uncertainty. But we don't, you see, the thing is, we're not enough afraid of samsara. Maybe now we are, but we're still hoping for the COVID to go away, everything go back to normal. And we totally forget that before the COVID was here, we also had problems. And before we had those problems, we had other problems. You know, you come and live in Switzerland, you will also have problems, even though we have a, you know, more or less okay government. So compared to other countries, but still people are unhappy with the government. So samsara is a dangerous place. So this is why we're practicing, because we want to get out of it. But when we will not get out of samsara if we keep holding on to these negative emotions as our protectors. We really have to see them as the enemies. And as His Holiness was saying also in the Mexican talk, I think he was saying it in this one, or maybe in the one with Mathieu Ricard. So did you see the one with Mathieu Ricard and the 2 psychologists? Well, that was totally different, because he was very friendly also. He was very, very warm-hearted and very friendly, but it was also very respectful. Maybe it was in this one. I think it was in the other one, because it was 2 psychologists. So His Holiness was saying that the negative, the destructive emotions, this is what we have to work with. He said they're actually quite easy to work with because they are based on appearances and they're not based on reality. And these appearances are based on wrong views of inherent existence that add something to the object or to the situation. Yeah. Whereas he said love and compassion, that's not based on appearances, because love says everybody wants to be happy, nobody wants to suffer. Love and compassion, yeah? Like love, everybody wants to be happy, and compassion, nobody wants to suffer. That is based on facts. This is not appearance, this is truth. Yeah. So this is why that love and compassion, once you develop those, they will be much longer lasting, and they're based on facts. And I don't know how exactly he said it, but this is how I understood it. I hope I'm repeating it the right way. It's like, you see, in order for anger to be there, you need the appearance to be there. Do you see what I mean? You need the object to be there. You cannot get angry at space or at emptiness. Yeah. But you can have a feeling of love, maybe compassion, I'm not sure, but definitely a feeling of love, the wish for just this, you know the feeling of love? I'm talking about the sensation of love, not love in the head. And this you can have sometimes, boom, it just comes out of the blue. Yeah, maybe you walk in nature, maybe I don't know. Have you ever experienced that? That you yourself, you're almost a bit surprised and you go like, oh, what's happening? You know, this very warm-hearted, very tender, very open, almost, yeah, exactly. Yael is doing, ooh. Yeah, this kind of feeling. Have you ever had that? And this seems to happen sometimes, even though there's no object. Especially then, because then it's not attached love. It sometimes also comes when we, you know, when we succeed in what we were doing, or when people praise us and all this, but this is more a little bit attached love. Yeah. So this is the question when you study this text here, and especially the patience chapter, do I want to be living without my anger? And then when, you know, when you apply these methods and you feel that the anger is decreasing or even the anger goes, to be happy and not to go like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Can we discuss this a little bit? Because I'm not sure if you understand what I'm saying. Yael?
Yeah. I feel sometimes, I think that when I feel angry, so the anger is like protecting me from the past or the future, but it's not helpful, it's not useful.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at it, at the anger, and I ask myself, what will be a useful thing to do? Is there anything useful? Then suddenly there is compassion to myself and to others. Sometimes it's also more spacious because there is something to do, and it's not a protective action, it's useful action.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Are you ready to let go of your anger? I think, you know, Shantideva, especially in the previous verses, that's how he starts to talk about the disadvantage of anger. Yeah, and maybe we should we'll look at the next verse, because there it becomes quite clear. Yeah, that we might solve a problem with anger right now, but we're creating causes for more problems in the future because of karma. Because with anger, the motivation is not quite right. Yeah, are we capable, when a person is, like when we're holding just a person responsible for the action or for having harmed us, are we capable to be angry just at the situation and not at the person? Are we able to do that? I don't think so. Me, definitely not. And for this, again, you know, awareness, awareness, awareness. You need awareness to see, what is my motivation? Because when anger is there, you don't see what's going on beside it. And also we don't see that, we're not seeing the whole picture. We're just seeing this, we're just 100% focusing on the person, and this is a bad person. From their own side, out there, really. Not being capable of doing anything good. I'm exaggerating a bit, but anger is saying that when you are angry at somebody. Always, you know, not being able to change. When we look, you know, at our relationships, now I'm not hoping that you have somebody that you know amongst your friends or partners that you can't even think of this person anymore because you get so sick or you get so angry or you feel so hurt. I hope you don't have anybody, but it would still be good to have somebody like this. Because then we could experience what anger says, you know. The anger that we have for this person, it's maybe based on one moment or one action or one sentence or a disappointment. You know, the person didn't do what you wanted them to do. And anger is able to forget, like the years of good relationship you had to this person, totally forget. Yeah, it makes things permanent. It freezes people into the situation. And then, of course, we don't give them the opportunity to change. And we're not looking for the good side. Anger never looks for the good side. It only sees the bad sides and it exaggerates those. Yeah. And we create potential karma. Yeah, because which is based on an appearance, as His Holiness says. So how can that give a good result? Okay, so we look at verse, what is it? 42. Yeah. We look at verse 42, which is about karma. So then we discuss karma a little bit so that everybody is clear what karma is. 42, yeah? So previously, I must have caused similar harm to other sentient beings. Therefore, it is right for this harm to be returned to me, who is the cause of injury to others. And this for us Westerners, because we're not growing up with that view, is very, very, very difficult. So Tom, you can close the screen share again, because I prefer to, I really like to see you. It's easier for me to talk to you when I see you than when I see the text. Have you understood what it says? If we're talking about boomerang, if you throw a boomerang and you're very good, then it comes back. Yeah. If now the karma boomerang, unfortunately, we can't remember that we threw it most of the time. Because as it says, karma ripens very slowly, that it's possible that karma doesn't ripen in this life. So do you all really know the law of cause and effect, that is that we usually call karma or dependent arising? Do you all know what goes with it? Huh? Yes or no? I'm going to ask you questions if you're not answering with no. Hagar says yes, okay? So you know karma really well. Where is Hagar? Oh yeah, no camera.
No, I don't have camera.
Okay. So can you give me the 4 characteristics of karma? Hagar.
The 4 characteristics, it will come from causes and effect. Like every single moment there's a karma. So it's caused because of cause and effect. The 4 characteristic of karma, it is
it's a bit cruel what I'm doing, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's challenging. I like it. I know it. I don't remember memorizing it.
If I tell you, then you will. But what does the word karma mean? Maybe somebody else also. What does it mean?
Action.
Action. Thank you. So you need to do an action. Then when we talk about the 4 characteristics of action, it's like karma is definite. Meaning whatever you throw, it will come back. You know, you throw a green boomerang will come back. You throw a red one, it will be a red one that comes back. It's not possible for a green one to come back. Meaning that if you do a constructive action, and what an action is, we'll look at it, because sometimes it's really good to go through these points again, because otherwise it's, you know, karma is very difficult to understand anyway. So so it means that if we do something with a good motivation and not with a destructive emotion, of which anger is one of them, or attachment or greed or jealousy or pride or, you know, arrogance, all these kinds of things, then they say happiness will occur, something that is wished for, something that is a good thing, whatever one finds a good wish. if you act with a negative mind, they say suffering will, the result of that will be suffering. So when we do the action, we are just planting the seed. Of course, every time, as as Kagar says, every time, karma is happening all the time, like not just us acting, but also results coming. But when we do an action and the result is coming, what is coming back? I'm kind of kind to somebody, giving them kind words, and then they're kind to me. So the coming back of them being kind to me, that is not a result of me being kind to them now. That is just maybe when I'm kind to somebody else, I'm just giving them the chance to be kind to me also. Yeah. But it's not always the case, because if these actions would ripen so quickly, then the world would look totally different. None of us would do negative karma. A 7-year-old boy, or maybe then he was 6 in Belgium, he had told me, because he comes to listen, the courses are in his house because his parents are organizing these courses. So he just sits there and he draws. And then he said, sometimes he looks up, and then at one point he said, it would be really good if we would have a suit that we could put on, kind of certain clothes, so that we can go into the future and see what kind of results we are creating right now. That would be really, really good, wouldn't it? Because you see, if karma would ripen immediately, none of us would do negative actions, because we would be clever enough to see, oh no, this I better don't do, because, it's like if I put my hand in the fire, I understand it burns. So I do this once and never again. Well, out of maybe not being careful, but I'm not doing it on purpose again. If I bite into a fruit and there is a big hard, how do you call this thing? Stone in it, like how you call it? The seed. If the seed is really hard, like, I don't know, mango or something like this. No, mango is not so hard. A plum, a plum was like a seed, like a stone. If I don't know the plum and I go and it hurts, I do this once, but never again. This we don't forget. When the suffering comes immediately, especially if it's suffering of the body, we don't do it unless we have a very bad habit, like being an alcoholic and drinking and then vomiting and then going back to drinking. Why one does that, I don't know. I did it myself, so why I did it, I don't know. But it's just this you seem to forget somehow. Maybe because you're a bit, with the alcohol. So karma is definite. Then what you have not, that's the first characteristic. What you have not created, you cannot experience. So fear and hope, on one hand, are totally useless. If it's a kind of fear to protect ourselves, this is good, yeah? But it should be the fear, okay, what I have created in terms of negative actions in the past, if I am afraid of the results, then I have to check, can I do something about them or can I not do anything about them? Verse number, what is it? Number 10. If you cannot change anything, what's the point of being afraid? If you can change something, then go ahead and change it. So one can purify negative actions, yeah, also in a very, very conscious way. So the hope for something to happen is like, being a child and not doing my homework and wanting good grades. This is that kind of hope, is no point. But still, it doesn't mean we have to become hopeless also. But the hope should kind of make us clever enough to see, I need to create some causes in order to be happy. Then another point is karma increases, and this is very difficult to understand. Like out of a very small action can because it is lying on the mind stream, it can get you a very big result. Okay. So these are, and karma is never lost unless you destroy it with, like the positive karma, you can destroy it through anger. This is why anger is no good. So they say it doesn't really totally destroy the positive seeds that we have. But while you are angry, you cannot, the positive karma cannot ripen because you're not happy. You're not happy in a sense of relaxed, open, joyful, these kind of things. Because when you're angry, you cannot enjoy anything. That's also a good way of looking at the disadvantages of anger. Okay, so those are the 4 characteristics. Then, but not just, it's not just the action. And this also is so important to know. You know, in order for the karma to be complete, you need to have an intention. You need to do the action, you need to have an object, and you need to finish the action. Then it creates very, very strong, healthy seeds that they just need time and then outside conditions for them to ripen. If any of these things is missing, it still kind of creates some potential, but it is not as heavy as when all these 4 things are present. And the most important thing is the intention. And when they talk about intention, they're not talking about conscious intentions. I am going to say this nasty word now because then it will hurt the person. Anger is an intention, almost a natural. Hello, young man. Anger is almost a natural intention because there is the wish to harm. You know, attachment, greed, desire is the wish to possess, is the wish to have. Just for me, you know, not for me. Okay, we can also say it can be the wish to have in order to share with others, but I'm only going to share this with the people that I'm deciding who I'm going to share it with. Usually it's just for me. Is this kind of clear? Yeah. So anger will never give you a long-lasting good result. Now, big question. Do we trust this? Do we trust this law of cause and effect? Because how can we check, you know? Because if every action kind of plants a seed, and this seed will ripen as in the nature of how the seed was, whether constructive or destructive. If we could see that law of cause and effect, we would trust it. You know, if it would, as I said, if it would ripen immediately, then, shall I use him again? Maybe I shouldn't use him. Because then your prime minister would have disappeared long ago. Mao Zedong, you know, and Hitler, all these people who had all this power. Why did they have so much power? Not because they were so intelligent, but because also they had created in past lives the karma to have so much power of speech, so that people would believe him. So believe it or not, also Netanyahu has the power of speech because some people do believe him. Some, maybe only a few. So that comes from telling the truth, and not in this life, but in a previous life. When somebody was a very good person, and you know, nobody believes them what they're saying, nobody helps them, everything always falls apart, but now they have quite good attitudes and they're very kind people, then we don't understand where this comes from. But if it would ripen immediately, then the good results would also come immediately. So then either there is something that continues and comes from previous times or previous lives, or, you know, karma, law of cause and effect, yeah, sometimes yes, sometimes no. But, you know, this is laws that people make, sometimes yes and sometimes no. But the law of gravity is not sometimes yes and sometimes no. The law of cause and effect also is not sometimes yes and sometimes no. So in general, if people, I can see it in Western people, in general, when they get explained kind of the law of cause and effect, if their life is going quite well and they're, you know, nice looking and have enough money and have good friends and have a good mind and they're quite intelligent, they do agree with that. Yeah, this is karma, you know. When life is not going well and they hear this for the first time, they don't agree with it at all. Yeah. So how do we, you know, this, it's good for us to think, how do we think when we hear the law of cause and effect?
My problem is with the law of cause and effect is that other than these 4 characteristics that you defined, it's like a black box.
Yeah.
You enter, like there's an input, which is what we do now and what we allegedly did in past life, which we don't know. Yeah. And then what the output would be is also unknown to us because we can't correlate input to output. So, as far as I have heard, there is not a very compelling explanation that can explain that black box. I just need, so it's kind of hard for me to, I mean, it's hard for me to comprehend or to agree with this.
Okay, exactly. So there's no good explanation because we wouldn't understand. This is what the Buddha says. Now it sounds like just in Germany it's a fully Ausrede. It's just like an excuse because we should not know, we should just believe. So faith and trust comes into that. Now there's a lot of ways that we can look at this. So for example, in the Buddhist teachings, they talk about the 3 phenomena, like the 3 levels of phenomena. Phenomena that are easy to understand for us, they're quite obvious. Phenomena that are slightly hidden, and phenomena that are totally hidden. So unfortunately, this law of cause and effect goes into the black box, as you say, that for us, we can, even if it gets opened, we still don't understand. Yeah, this is what the Buddha said. You still don't understand. We're not seeing far enough. You know, human beings are quite arrogant. We think, oh, somebody just has to explain it to me, then I will understand. You know, this is usually the approach, but it's not like this. If you would have tried to explain the workings of a mobile phone to somebody like 500 years ago, they wouldn't have understood. I mean, you tried to explain it to me. I don't understand why this works. I don't understand why I see you on the screen while you are sitting in Israel and I'm sitting here in Switzerland. I have no clue. So also the Buddha says, you should not accept anything that I'm saying. But if you want to study my teachings, or if you want to practice my teachings, you should take it like a goldsmith takes gold to see whether it's really gold. So you have to examine it. Okay, so I think when he says like our suffering comes from previous actions that we have created who knows when, that's very difficult to accept. But when we look at the second noble truth, that it's not just karma that creates the suffering, it's also kleshas, like negative emotions. And can you see that the world is in such a terrible state at the moment because of wrong views, because of self-cherishing, because of greed, and because of aggression? I think this we can see, yeah? Also, when the Buddha says there is suffering, is that true?
Yeah.
Like, let's take, because Leora said, oh, this is not Leora Kennett. She took me on this, you know, the great philosopher who's looking at me in a very serious way. Come on, give us a smile, Leora. Remember when I said, you know, an obvious phenomena in the Buddhist teachings would be dukkha. So of course, then Leora caught me and she said, what about, you know, the all pervasive dukkha? I said, yeah, this one not. but the dukkha of pain, yeah, when the Buddha says, and also, you see, he didn't talk, in the first turning of the wheel, he didn't talk about these very subtle things. He just talked about, you know, he said there is stress, there is frustration, there's lamentation, there is pain. There's having what you don't want, there's not having what you want, there's losing what you're attached to. This is what he talked about. There's birth, old age, sickness, and death. All these are pretty obvious, isn't it? So that's true. Then when it comes to the causes, then that's already a little bit difficult to understand. But when he talks about emptiness, when he talks about appearances, when he, with the teachings on that everything is empty of any inherent existence, even though we cannot access it directly, but we can still access it through inference. Yeah, things still appear like the way that I see them, they appear to me as if they exist out there from their own side. Yeah. But when somebody says, but try to go and find them, try to find objective existence of the pen. I cannot find it anywhere. Yeah. I only find parts of pen, but these parts of pen are not the pen. And then I take these parts apart, and then I find parts of parts and parts of parts of parts, and so on and so on. And what am I left with? No objective existence. This we can understand. Again, you know, this is Sunday evenings. This is Geshe Kelsang Wangmo, Geshe-ma, so she explains it really well. Again and again, the same thing. I tell you, you have to hear these things from a qualified teacher, which I am not, many, many, many times until you understand what is being said. Yeah, at least intellectually. So this we can see, yeah, it's true. He talks about emptiness. And when we really have to examine, like the goldsmith, yeah. We have to take this emptiness teaching kind of thing and really take the pen apart, or the whatever you want to take apart, and to see our misconception, then kind of, I have a pen here, but I can't take it apart. It's just, yeah, I could. But anyway, that we think there is some kind of innate penness in all these parts, that when I put the parts together, then it makes it a pen. And that's the mistake. That's the mistake that we are making. So we're still making the mistakes, but then at least we know that we're making a mistake. Yeah. So there we can also see, yeah, what he says about emptiness, that things lack true, inherent, objective existence. That everything that exists is labeled, comes into existence through parts and particles, a function, a label, and a mind who labels it. And then that's what makes it kind of, that is existence, conventional existence. Still, they have a function. It doesn't mean that they don't exist. Okay, so these two things, these two teachings, for example, we can check. Or we can check that love and compassion are very helpful to solve problems. Is that true? Is it true that love and compassion are helpful to, not attached love, okay? But love wanting the other person to be happy without having any agenda. Compassion, wanting the other to be free from suffering without any agenda. Is that true?
Yes, very much.
Again, so that's what he says. He says, if we want to solve the problems, we will not solve them through destructive emotions. Is it true when he says, kleshas, the destructive emotions, are not clear and they distort reality?
Yes.
Can we check that? Is that true? Okay, so since we find this to be true, then the things we cannot check, then trust comes in. Okay, and having to let go a little bit of, but before I believe this, I need to know. And then just to have to trust in the Buddha that this we cannot know because it goes into past lives. And unless you can see past lives, how can you know? And our mind is too small to see. My mind is too small to see past lives. Although I saw a past life once when I was in psychotherapy. Now you can say, well, maybe it was just fantasy. Well, everything is just fantasy anyway. So, but it was really helpful to understand certain behaviors that I have now, and then to be able to let go. I don't need it anymore. You know, to first of all, to forgive myself and to see that because of what happened then, I developed that habit to see that, you know, I'm not doing this on purpose or consciously. This is just because of what happened in the past, which influences my behavior now. And then to see, and then to see that I don't need it anymore. And then I was able more or less to drop it also. Once we, you see, this is why meditation is about knowing. Once we know, the whole thing falls apart. The whole of samsara falls apart once we really know. But we cannot know it with a samsaric mind, which kind of projects inherent existence. Yeah. So then we have the possibility to either trust it or not to trust it. This is up to you. And so His Holiness also said, I think he said it maybe then or yesterday, if there are parts in the Buddhist teachings that you feel uncomfortable with, then drop them. Because you cannot practice something that you feel uncomfortable with. You cannot use the theory of law of cause and effect if you have absolutely total non-belief in it. But then, this is from me, but then you have to check, okay, what is my view? Why certain people are happy and other people are suffering? What is my view? Do I have a view of if I want a result, I need a cause? Do I have this view? Do you have this view? Like in material things, we totally understand. If I want beautiful flowers in my garden and I have very good earth and I water it all the time and the sun is shining, I have perfect conditions for beautiful flowers in my garden. But if I don't put the substantial cause, which are seeds, nothing will ripen. This we understand. But how with all the other things, what happens in our lives? You see, if I sit in front of my perfectly prepared garden and I water it every day and the sun is shining and I'm sitting there and I'm getting more and more depressed and slowly I start to complain to the neighbors. I don't know what is happening. I'm watering it, the sun is shining, the earth is really good, but nothing is growing. And then one neighbor asks me, "What, did you put some seeds?" And then I say, no. Well, they would think I'm a bit crazy. But then thinking that happiness and suffering comes just out of the blue, you know, this is what we do, isn't it? So when we can see the cause, then we think, okay, that is the cause. Like I put my hand in the fire and then I get blisters, I get burned, and I say, okay, that is the immediate cause for having a burned hand. This I understand. But then being happy or unhappy about the burned hand, then this is, you know, it's so complex, this whole karma thing. This is why we can't understand. And karma also, the workings of karma is not one, you know, like 1 + 1 is 2. It's not like mathematics. It has so many aspects. Also with the 10 negative actions, this is why I didn't want to give them to you, because it's, you know, it sounds a bit like in a very simplistic way. You do this, this happens to you. You do this, this happens to you. But it depends on so many factors in what mind state I'm doing this, with whom I am doing this, with whom I'm doing this action. And also these karmic imprints, they are dynamic. They're not, you know, they change all the time. Like seeds, they're almost organic. So it's your choice. Do I trust the law of cause and effect? What will happen then? And then you have to check what will happen. Or do I not trust it? And what will happen then? What do you think?
For me, it makes sense even without, mysticism and black boxes and things that we can't understand. As I see it, we have, I don't know, an unconscious entity inside us, which actually governs or directs the way we live. And according to Buddhism, this is indestructible, so it passes from one lifetime to another lifetime. And this unconscious soul or psyche or whatever mind observes everything we do. And if we do something, then we give this thing the idea that this is what we want. And then it will try to attract this thing that we did to us because it always wants to benefit us. If I'm stealing, then this thing inside me gets the impression that stealing is a good thing. And then it will try unconsciously to put me in a position where stealing happens, whether I steal again or someone steals from me. It's the same, because stealing is good. And lying, if I keep lying, then I give the impression lying is something which is wanted, which is positive. And if I do good things, I mean good, nothing is good or bad. It's just, this is what it is.
Yeah, this is what it is.
If I help, then I give the impression that helping is a good thing. And I will be helped or I will have the opportunity to help. Then there is no mysticism around. It's just self-convincing. Then unconsciously I try to create a situation where these things happen. That's it.
We will do a short reflection to finish this, because you see, I mean, you'd have to find out whether when something happens to you that is either that you like or you dislike, to really think, this mind stream of mine has created this somewhere by doing an action, and by seeing the action as good, as you say, whether the action by itself is good or not good, and this is what is coming back, to see if it is easier to accept what is going on. This is why when you see Tibetans, for example, who also have lost their countries and who grew up with these teachings on karma and all this, for them it's much easier to kind of continue with their life, even though they have lost their country, because they say, well, this is our karma is ripening. So what we can do now is we can be very careful that we're not creating more negative karma. Yeah, I think it is when we start to take responsibility actually for where we, as Gidi says, where we are born, in what circumstances we are going to be living and all that. We don't need to go into the past and dig, why is this happening to me? This is the Western thing. We always want to know why this is happening to me. It's not so important. The main thing is that you see, this is not what I want. This is not making my life really kind of the way I want it. And then to think, okay, what can I do for the future? I can shape the future. Yeah. We cannot reshape the past, but we can shape the future. But you need trust in this. But as Gidi says, when you start to go more into into ethical conduct, His Holiness again and again and again and again, he talks about secular ethical conduct that is not bound to religion, that people from their own side, they go like, I'm fed up by being unethical. Now, a big point is, what is being unethical? Everything you do to others that you don't want to be done to you, that is unethical. It's as simple as that. Everything that when it happens to you, you dislike, and then, you do it to others, this is unethical, because our subtle consciousness knows it when we do it. Yeah, this is why also it can create short-term happiness, stealing and lying and all this, but it doesn't create long-term happiness, that's for sure. So there again, we need a lot of this. you know, whether it's true or not, we cannot really check, but we need, if we have some awareness and see, how do I feel when I think like this? And how do I feel when I think like this? Or how do I feel when I do this with this kind of motivation? And how do I feel when I do this with this kind of motivation? And then you come to some kind of experience that is yours and not just words from the Buddha. Do you understand what I'm saying here? And also to really look for ourselves. What kind of person would I like to be? Do I want to be the liar and the cheater and you know, exploiting others? And do I want to be such a person? I have the karma. For example, I must have the karma also to have the karma, the power of speech, because when I was younger, I used to tell lies a lot and everybody believed me, especially when I was a kid. I could lie here and there and everybody was believing me. Then I heard about karma and I thought, oh man, I'm destroying all my positive karma of people believing me. So I started to pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm not lying anymore. I still tell lies sometimes, but because I know it, I get all hot, you know, and I feel the red lamp here going, oi, 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 oi. And then I'm more careful, but I still exaggerate. So, you know, and sometimes it just makes the whole thing about karma, what I really like about it, it gives me the power of I'm not the victim anymore. You know, I can start take responsibility for myself. I don't need to wait for the government to do it. Do you see what I mean? I mean, we can talk about karma again next time because it's such a big topic. Yeah, and it's so central in the Buddha's teachings. It is so central because if you don't believe that we are all right, everything is a result or an effect of some action, we will only have compassion for the victims. We will never be able to generate equanimity. And when we do take responsibility, if it happens immediately, there is no anger. You see, I think you know the story also about these 2 bottles of syrup that fell. One bottle fell on my head on the bus going from Dharamsala to Delhi. Did I tell you the story? I'm sure you know it. But anyway, so it's like the boomerang coming back, and then but remembering I had thrown the boomerang. I was in the bus from Dharamsala to Delhi. How many of you have taken this bus? Nobody? Okay. The bus drivers race.
I have.
Hagar has, okay, so maybe you remember. So you can confirm. The bus drivers race each other and the road is very windy and you have to hold on at least the first 5 hours because it goes like, and it's very uncomfortable and the road is bumpy. So I had bought, there's this natural apple syrup in Himachal Pradesh. So I bought it for a person who has cancer who lives in Delhi. And I bought 2 bottles and I put it where you usually, you know, above the seat. So in the middle of the night, one of these bottles falls on my head. Yeah. It didn't, and it fell on the floor and it didn't break. And I tell you, I was so happy. I was much more, I had a bump and it really hurt, okay? I didn't get an injury. Nothing kind of broke. The skin didn't break, I didn't bleed. But I was sitting there holding the bottle like this, as if it's my baby, and kind of going, oh, wow. You know, the bottle could have broken on my head, blood and syrup everywhere. The driver, he would not have stopped. That's for sure. For something like this, they don't stop. And also, I have put it up there. Can you imagine how I would have felt if somebody next to me had put it up there? Can you see the difference?
Or if it would have hurt someone else, that you put the bottle and it fell on someone else's head.
Yeah, also, I was very happy that it fell on my head and not on somebody else's head and broken and all this, you know. I was so happy. This was one of the happiest bus journeys I had with the bump, you know, because I thought like, oh, such a good thing. It fell on my head and it fell now and it didn't break and all this. So this is maybe we do a short reflection on this, that we don't have time anymore. I've been talking too long. Gosh, but do you still have like 5 minutes energy to try to do that? Or do it, this is your homework maybe, you know? Try to remember when something negative comes back, and see how you react when you don't know that you threw the boomerang and you forgot about the Buddha's teachings. That the Buddha says, whatever happens to us, it's our responsibility. We have planted the seed somewhere in the past. And then don't go to the past and think, oh, I must have been a really bad person. That's no good. You were not a bad person, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here. And even if you were a bad person, you're not a bad person anymore. So, you know, we change personalities and lives. So see how we react when we know that I started it, or it's my responsibility when something negative comes back. And how even there still sometimes we have the tendency to blame somebody else, isn't it? Even when we can see it immediately. But to really take responsibility, how does it feel to take responsibility and to bear the consequences and come up and say, yes, this is my fault? How does that feel? Or to blame somebody else? Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we just do a loving kindness meditation at the end. It might be more helpful. But this is your homework, to see how can I integrate this teaching of the Buddha, this theory, this black box, as you say, Tom. Yeah. Because Gidi is not a black box. He's got very good karma so that he understands it. For me also, when I heard it for the first time, it made so much sense. All of a sudden I started to think, wow, now I understand why this is happening in my life. For me, it was a great relief to hear it. Yeah. Also, of course, now when I do negative actions, then also it creates fear, because I know I will have to bear the consequences. But I think this is good fear. We need this fear in order to be able to say no to our destructive emotions, to mine, because they're very strong and they're not afraid of consequences. How does that sound? Okay, as homework. So basically the overall question is, how would my life change if I take this theory on board? Even for me, it feels like a black box. And then to be very honest, you know, oh, I would go through life with just fear. Yeah, maybe, you know. Check, as His Holiness says, will this be useful for you? This kind of view of law of cause and effect. And then it would be nice if we can discuss it. So, because you still don't talk very much, maybe I will have to kind of, you know, to divide you into chat rooms. But I thought the group is small enough so that everybody can just talk. But otherwise, I'll divide you into chat rooms next time, or something like that. So, but write down a few points that you came up with. You know, write down the pros and the cons. And then next time, or you can put it in the chat next time. If I adopt this theory of law of cause and effect, what's the pros? What will be the benefit in my life? What will be the disadvantage? Because in Buddhism also, sometimes we have a tendency always only wanting to look at the advantages, but there can also be disadvantages. So you have to find out, because it's not a devotion kind of, you know, Buddhism is not a belief system. It's not a devotion system, although it kind of looks like this sometimes. It's an experience system. You have to experience these things. Okay? Oh, one verse covered today. Amazing. Next time, probably we go back to that one because it's an important topic. Okay, so we just, you know, dedicate. That's another thing that we do for our karma. It's so easy. It's so easy to dedicate. So we just sit a few more minutes. I mean, I know you're already sitting, but we kind of reflect. Again, straighten up our back with a happy mind. You know, whatever happened in this 1.5 or even a bit more time, it doesn't help you if you're unhappy about it, because it doesn't change it. What happened, happened. Yeah. But we can look at the positive things maybe that happened. You know, we didn't argue because you didn't say anything. So of course we can't argue. Oh, yeah. But we dedicate all the positive energy that we have created in this time that we spent together, and that we will, you know, that we spent together in, you know, previous meetings, and that you're spending studying these things, trying to practice these things. So you think from your own side, why am I doing this? What do I want to happen? We create energy when we sit like this and think and talk and, you know, reflect. I know it says you shouldn't be goal-oriented, but it's still good to know where we want to go, because we are goal-oriented anyway, whether we want to know. Where do you want to direct this positive energy? You see, every being, each and every one, 24 hours a day, every second of our existence, we don't want suffering, we only want happiness. So Mingyur Rinpoche says, this shows we have loving kindness and compassion, because that's what it is, wishing for happiness, not wanting to suffer. And we have the potential to have happiness and to eliminate suffering. When we eliminate the causes, only then. But because the suffering has causes, we can eliminate it. So we're very happy about this. I know it's not pleasant to hear about karma, but at least then we know we can take responsibility for our happiness, for our liberation, for our enlightenment, and then we can take responsibility for the happiness of others and lead them into that state. So can we trust our innate goodness that we have? Please do. What can you lose if you trust it and you think, this is my nature? This is when I feel at home, when I feel well, open, spacious, happy, when I'm in contact with that nature of love, compassion, and intelligence. So we can direct the positive energy that we have generated, so that all people, all beings start to recognize their potential for happiness that we have. And understand that happiness has causes and suffering has causes. So may we all be able to realize that it lies in our hands, that if we have awareness, each second we have the possibility or the choice, if we have awareness, to create more imprints for suffering in the future or more imprints for happiness in the future. So may all beings be safe, be protected from physical and mental harm, and especially be protected from their own destructive emotions through self-compassion and intelligence. May all beings be able to create the causes for health, being strong, free from fear, and peaceful. And may all beings be able to lift their potential of living their lives with joy and ease, recognizing that our negative emotions are based on appearances, not on reality. Okay. So I have to write down what I gave you as a homework because I also forget sometimes. So what was it? The pros and cons if you adapt karma, isn't it? The law of cause and effect.
I have a question
Yeah.
regarding the homework. How should we recognize an event of ripening karma? I mean, if I cut my hand if I cut my finger while slicing tomato for my salad, is it a ripening of karma or is it just ill use of a knife? I mean,
Well, it's all of it together. This is it. You see, this is when that's the next verse that comes. So your cutting of your finger is, of course, the knife, but it's also your karma to have a human body that have fingers that can be cut. If you would have a Buddha's body, which is a light body, no knife can cut it. So it's both. You have a body, the karma is that you have a body that is vulnerable, that can be cut.
okay.
Yeah. And then it's again, how do you cut yourself? Many go very deep, others go not very deep. Some cut themselves on purpose because they don't want to go to work, or because they have this strange thing that they need to inflict pain on themselves and all that. Okay, is that kind of bit answering your question? But please, with law of cause and effect, do not take a knife and then go like, okay, if I have the karma to be cut, I'll be cut. Otherwise, I won't have the karma to be. Don't do that. And that would be silly. Yeah. Don't put yourself into danger to see whether you have the negative karma to be cut or to be burned or to be whatever. That's no point. This is not kind of being skillfully working with the law of cause and effect. But maybe try to read up on it, because there's many more in the Lam Rim. If you have a Lam Rim book or something, there's many more features that go with it. It's very, very complex. Yeah, it's very complex. But I think if we understand the law of cause and effect, what will happen, we will be able to include the aggressors and the victims in our compassion. We'll be able to work for the happiness of both of them, which a Bodhisattva, this equanimity thing, if you want to be a Bodhisattva, this is necessary. And you see, whether I get angry, I'm sitting here and I'm getting angry at Mr. Trump in America. I mean, in what way does that change the situation? It doesn't change him. But that's what so many people do these days. They just get angry because they feel so helpless, and then at least they do something. They get angry, and then what happens? They get stomach ulcers, or they kind of beat the dog or the kids, or are unpleasant with the people around them. But it doesn't mean you have to say, oh no, it's karma, and then let him do whatever he wants to do. It doesn't mean that. You still see what is right and what is not right. Yeah. It's complicated, the whole thing. It's complicated in order not to kind of understand it in the wrong way. Pema Churden, I have it in my notes here, which I unfortunately don't use enough, because you would get more wisdom from my notes, which I copied from other teachers. So she said, if a child is told not to play with matches, and does so anyway, it might get burned. This gives it the chance to learn about cause and effect firsthand and directly. In the end, it may even conclude from this that the careless handling of matches can be painful. The mistake it made by playing with the matches made it wiser. So that would be if karma would ripen immediately. Unfortunately, it doesn't. But it's just how we use it, kind of. But now is the big but. If it feels like being burned is a punishment because it did not listen to what mommy and daddy said, then it just learns to feel guilty. Its intelligence is blocked and it does not benefit from its mistake. Understanding karma in this way gives us great freedom to shape our future ourselves. How we react right now when a branch falls on our head influences how we deal with any injuries later, like injuries that have been inflicted on us through people. Okay, so it's not a punishment from anybody. This is karma is not a reward and punishment system. This is what many Westerners kind of mistake it for. This is very important to understand. Nobody deserves to suffer. And punishment, again, punishment can be a good thing when you understand why this is happening now. But who likes punishment? Nobody likes punishment. If we take the punishment for us with intelligence, say, there's something to learn here. But just putting people into prisons is not going to change them. It's not going to make them better people. As long as they don't understand why they're there, and as long as we don't give them the opportunity to change their habits and mindsets, there is no point. Still, we put them into prison so that other people are protected from them, but it's not going to change them. And at one point, we have to release them again. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much. Maybe see you when? Oh, maybe Monday. Is that? Yeah, maybe next Monday. Is that so? Then we try to generate a good heart and we meditate on forgiveness. Then it will be just, I hope so, an hour talk. And then we do 45 minutes reflection. I mean, first stabilizing and then reflection. And in the afternoon, it will be forgiving. And when I made the thing, I made sure that you can go to the synagogue, that I finished before the time that you go to the synagogue, I think. But now you can't go anyway, so then it's okay, we don't need to hurry. Also, thank you very much. And have a good week. Try to see the positive sides of this whole situation. Because just focusing on the negative side, it just creates more suffering. There we have a choice. Thank you, and do take care and stay healthy.
Good night.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, Kulam.
Thank you very much.
רק אזכיר למי שעד כאן שבשבוע הבא הנהלים טיפה משתנים ויהיה צורך להיכנס באמצעות סיסמה לשיעור הזה ולכל השיעורים בעצם של לימודי הדרמה, ואת הפרטים לכך תוכלו למצוא בעמודים הרלוונטיים לכל שיעור ושיעור. אז שבינתיים יש טוב, צום קל למי שצם ורק בריאות.
Thank you. Okay, bye. Sleep well.